Hello, and welcome, Canucks Crossing. This week, we're going to be talking about the individual players on the Canucks team, my predictions for their performance, and yeah, just what I expect to see out of our favorite Canucks players. Just as a disclaimer at the start here, I don't follow the AHL team too much, so there are a couple honorable mentions, picks that might make it into the lineup. But for the most part, it's just the roster players that I'll be talking about, and I'll just be going in order what Puckpedia has everybody in the roster. So up first, and probably the biggest deciding factor for the Canucks this season is Elias Pettersson, 26-year-old center player, $11.6 million per year, new contract. Yeah, following a pretty shitty year for Pettersson, 64 games played, 15 goals, 30 assists, for only 45 points is quite a bit lower than what you would expect out of your number one center. I think it's safe to say the entire Canucks roster had a bad year last year, had a terrible year. Notably because of a knee injury, the JT Miller drama, and just having people in and out of the lineup kind of on a revolving basis. A lot of injuries plaguing our Canucks team last year made it hard to get any kind of offense going. But at the end of the day, he's paid to produce, and he has not been. Going into this season, I believe Pettersson's going to have a crazy comeback year. The two seasons before this, last season, he scored 89 points and 102 points respectively. He has proven when he's confident, ready to go, that he can score with the greatest NHL players in the league. I think notably his face-off percentage is something he's going to have to work on, and just being more physical and not getting bullied so hard. On that note, I have heard a lot just from Vander Kane, Quinn Hughes reporting, and just some of the people he's been working with in the offseason. Pettersson has put on a lot more weight. He's put in a lot more work into his workouts and just came into the season with a brand new attitude. We'll have to see come training camp just how much he's gelling with new players on the team. Players we'll talk about further in the video. But I think truly the Canucks season is kind of make or break on Elias Pettersson. It kind of just all comes down to him. He wanted the big boy contract and he got it. So now it's time for him to kind of produce like he's supposed to. My bet for Pettersson this season is that I think he will break the Canucks season scoring record with 115 points, 40 goals, 75 assists, breaking Henrik Sedin's record of 112 points in one season. I think he has the skills. I think he has the speed when he's playing well, and he has one of the hardest shots out of any forward in the NHL, noted by, I think, 2 different NHL hardest shot competition wins. That's my predictions for Elias Pettersson. Up next, we have Brock Boeser, 28 years old, right wing. Yeah, Brock Boeser has been with the Canucks for his entire career. One of the big faces of the organization. Last year, bit of a down year, just as everybody else in the lineup. 75 games played, 25 goals, 25 assists for 50 points. A bit of a down year from the year before, having 81 games played, 40 goals, 33 assists for 73 points. He has a pretty consistent shooting percentage, so I think just with his line mates playing better, I think we'll see a lot more out of Brock Boeser than last season. He seems to really get along with the rest of the players in the forward group. Fans are really attached to him. And the big thing about Brock Boeser is he's got that clutch gene. When the Canucks were playing against Nashville in the playoffs, the last time they made the playoffs, he showed up, whenever we needed him in the big games. And I truly think, having him in Game 7 versus the Oilers in that playoff series could have brought us the win there. He is really good net front, but I will say his biggest weakness is he could use more physicality. He's not really good at bullying people out of the way. He kind of gets pushed over, and he's really, really slow. Pettersson and him notably slower than just about any other player in the NHL last year. I expect Pettersson to be a lot better this year. Boeser in general has just been a slower player. My bet for Brock Boeser, kind of just like a return to form from the season before. 45 goals, so it'd be a career high in goals, and 30 assists for 75 points. I think if I'm expecting Pettersson to score more, we'll see a goal increase on Brock Boeser as well. Following that, we have Jake DeBrusk, 28 years old, left wing. This is his second season as a Canuck, with the season before being like a half Bruin, half Canuck season. Last season, 82 games played, 28 goals, 20 assists for 48 points. He nearly hits his career record for points on an absolutely terrible Canucks team. He has good team chemistry. He seems like a good locker room guy. He is super chatty with reporters, which is nice to see. A lot of the current Canucks are quite young. They don't like to talk to the media too often, but he seems to like really thrive in that thing. I think maybe coming from a Boston market, which I don't think they have like the same media presence that the Canucks do. It's like nice to get the limelight on him. So he's been enjoying that. He's been practicing a lot with Pettersson coming into this season. So hopefully we'll see them lined up on that top line together a bit more. I know they had him on the second line quite a bit last year. We'll see. Hopefully we can get some sort of chemistry going with DeBrusk and Pettersson. I think he is a super streaky scorer, which, sometimes just doesn't play in the Canucks' favor. But I think we'll see him finally break his season high scoring. My bet for Jake DeBrusk is 30 goals, 30 assists for like nice even 60. I think him, Brock Besser, and Pettersson could make for like a really dominant top line if they really get that chemistry going. Following Jake DeBrusk, we have Mr. Philip Hedl, center, 26 years old. This is his second season as a Canuck. He went 41 games played, 11 goals, 9 assists, 20 points with the Rangers before joining the Canucks the season before. For 15 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists, and 6 points. Traded in the JT Miller trade. He is very injury prone. That seems to be the number one thing with Hedl. He has that second line center potential, but I think if most Canucks fans are being honest, we'd prefer to see somebody else kind of brought onto the team and let Hedl take kind of like that third line center role instead. He really just hasn't shown up at all. He hasn't been healthy. And then on top of that, his face-off percentage is fairly low. We haven't really got to see much of him playing with the Canucks, so I don't really know how well he's going to do. My bet for him is 15 goals, 25 assists, 40 points on the season, which would be very dependent on him being in the lineup pretty much the entire year and seeing how well his chemistry goes with his line mates. Speaking of which, we go to Evander Kane. New acquisition this offseason. Right winger, 34 years old, hometown boy. It's nice to see Evander Kane come home to Vancouver. He missed the entire last season due to injury and then joined the Oilers for the playoffs, playing 21 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points. Yeah, his career playoffs, 97 games played, 32 goals, 23 assists, 55 points. And the year before he was out with injury, he had 77 games played, 24 goals, 20 assists, 44 points. Kane is really solid net front. He's very physical with a solid scoring touch. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see him played on the top line with Pettersson, especially if DeBrusk really isn't just like clicking with him, or move Brock Besser down a little bit just to see how that works out with Hedl. He is a bit older. He's in the last year of his current contract, so we might see a bit of a boost, contract year, playing on the hometown team. He's bringing much needed toughness to the Canucks, missing from the JT Miller trade. I don't think it like entirely replaces it. He's a little bit older than JT Miller, but it certainly is better than getting another small center, small forward. Previous past of being a bit of a locker room cancer, so there is a little bit of that concern there. Canucks fans not sure, and we're kind of shitting on this deal as soon as it was made. But I will say he's kept his nose clean, at least in Edmonton. Canucks could really use somebody with some solid playoff experience and just like some more veteran presence. The Canucks are really young and really could use somebody with a bit more of those like leadership, older qualities. And everything I've seen from Evander Kane, all the like reporting on him, seems like he's like really matured into that kind of role. So I'm pretty positive he's going to have a good impact on this Canucks team. My bet for Evander Kane is a nice even 25 goals, 25 assists for 50 points. Probably on the second line, but I wouldn't be super surprised to see him and Besser, maybe DeBrusk, swap him back and forth, seeing kind of what fits best for the Canucks, what fits with Pettersson's style. Next up, we got Niels Höglander, left wing, 24 years old. Last season, 72 games played, 8 goals, 17 assists, 25 points. The year before, 80 games played, 24 goals, 12 assists for 36 points. Last year, he had the second lowest shooting percentage of his career, which I think bodes well to having a bit of a comeback here for Höglander. He works really hard as a second and third line winger, sometimes getting like that first line call up, but that was mostly when JT Miller was here, so I don't really expect to see it with Pettersson on the top line pretty much 24/7. He has a lot of really flashy plays and puts in a lot of effort, which it makes for good hockey to watch. He's fun to watch, but he is quite clumsy and has a lot of penalty minutes for a forward, can make kind of like the silly mistakes and cost games at the same time. But that just kind of comes with the age. Second line feels super good for him. I feel like there's a lot of potential there. And I think if we see kind of just like the all-around team comeback that I think most Canuck fans are hoping for. We'll see a career best performance from Höglander. I think around the 20 goals is probably about perfect for him. I think 24 was a little high, with 25 assists and 45 points. I think this is very dependent on who his line mates are. I think if he's like really going well with Kane and Hedl, we could see a pretty fun second line. Höglander really likes to put the physicality in there, as does Evander Kane. Now down to what used to be our thirst line, starting with Teddy Blueger, 31 years old, center. Last year, 82 games played, 8 goals, 18 assists, 26 points. The year before, 68 games played, 6 goals, 22 assists, and 28 points. A very dependable 3C. He has a really good face-off percentage. He works hard. His chemistry with the line mates, Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua, were super good to see, and very low penalty minutes. Only 1.8 million last year on a 2-year contract. I don't think we see necessarily a bump in points per game, but if he plays the whole year, I think we easily see him breaking 30 points for the first time in his career, especially with the 2 players he's playing with on his line being quite young and just like hungry, ready to go. My bet for Teddy Blueger, 10 goals, 20 assists for 30 points. On the left for Teddy Blueger, we have Drew O'Connor, 27 years old, left wing. Coming from the Penguins last year, 53 games played with them, 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points. And then joining the Canucks for 31 games played with 4 goals, 5 assists, and 9 points for a combined 84 games played with 10 goals, 15 assists, and 25 points. That's the second highest point total of his career, with this highest being 79 games played, 16 goals, 17 assists for 33 points. He's a really solid bottom 6 player. He has good speed and can be used on the penalty kill. He's pretty good on the forecheck, and he has proven to be quite durable. One of only a few players to play more than the full 82 games last year, just with how the trade worked out. He'll be replacing Dakota Joshua on what we used to call the thirst line, so we might see a little bit of bump in his production. He'll be playing with Connor Garland and Teddy Blueger. Last year he was playing on the 4th line. My bet is as long as the chemistry is good between Blueger, Garland, and him, and with him playing with like just higher quality caliber teammates, I think we see as well a career year out of Drew O'Connor. A nice even 20 goals, 20 assists, and 40 points for him is my prediction. Finishing up the third line, we have Mr. Connor Garland, 29 years old, right wing. Last year playing 81 games for 10 goals, 31 assists, 50 points. The year before, 82 games, 20 goals, 27 assists, and 47 points. He is a super hard worker. He has good chemistry with the boys. He's usually the last one off the ice, has a smile on his face the whole time, and he is remarkably consistent on a team that has been anything but consistent. Scoring in the 46 to 50 plus range. All 4 years he's been in Vancouver. Part of the thirst line, now missing Dakota Joshua, but adding Drew O'Connor. Connor Garland is super versatile. He plays on the power play, penalty kill, even strength, and is easily one of our most trusted forwards. It's actually kind of crazy that Connor Garland falls this far on the depth chart, but I think that just speaks to how decent our right wingers are with Brock Besser and Evander Kane. We can quite easily see Connor Garland getting bumped up, maybe see him swap with Evander Kane if need be, and that would give kind of like the physicality to the third line that we used to have. Just had a contract extension, $6 million, 6 years. He's one of my personal favorites for sure. My bet for Connor Garland is just more consistency, 20 goals, 30 assists, 50 points, just kind of right where we expect for Connor Garland, and just like more of that gritty, hardworking ethic out of him. Now on to our fourth line. Fourth line, there's going to be a couple extra players here, just people who could slot into that kind of last spot. Any of these players down here, I think aside from Kiefer Sherwood, could go up or down depending on how their year goes. But we'll start with Aatu Räty, 22-year-old center, acquired from New York Islanders in the Bo Horvat trade. Very solid 4C with good depth center potential. He has a very high face-off percent. Played most of his games with the Abbotsford Canucks, playing 43 games with 17 goals, 23 assists, and 40 points. He's a very high-speed player with increased willingness to fight in the dirty areas of the ice, something the Canucks desperately need. As long as the Canucks don't sign a 2C, which I don't see happening till the trade deadline, this is Räty's spot to lose. I don't think we really have anybody else chomping at the bit for the fourth-line center spot that has a better claim than him. Yeah, my bet for him, 15 goals, 20 assists, 35 points. And this is a big jump, but I think mostly this is based on him playing more with the big squad. Last year, playing a lot with the Abbotsford squad. I think he gets to spend almost the entire year up with the big boys unless they hire a new 2C. But even then, if he heals out with big injuries, I think a raw 2C is quite a bit of playtime. Next up, we got Kiefer Sherwood, left wing, 30 years old. Last year, 78 games played, 19 goals, 21 assists, 40 points. And the year before, he was playing in Nashville. 68 games played, 10 goals, 17 assists for 27 points. Absolute rock star of a depth winger. Kiefer Sherwood was brought to the Canucks after losing to them in the playoffs, with Quinn Hughes mentioning particularly how much it sucked to play against him. He's really solid offensively, but he's better at being a physical pest, setting the NHL record last year for most hits in a single season, and doing so while staying relatively healthy. He only missed 4 games. He has a lot of versatility. He can be played on the penalty kill and on the power play. Sherwood is kind of just ready to slot up and down the lineup, as he is really solid defensively, especially on a Canucks team that can struggle up with forwards giving up bad chances. My bet for Sherwood is 20 goals, 20 assists, 40 points. I think kind of just the same he had last year. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a little bit less physical, so he's not hurting himself, but he is a very hard worker, so maybe we see another career year of the 30-year-old forward. Up next, we got Neil Zaman. Right now, Puckpedia has him slotted in as the last spot. He does also play center, so I think he's probably the one ready to slot out of the lineup for any of these young players that I'll talk about after this. 25-year-old, played 19 games with the big club last year, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. In the year before, playing 43 games with 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. He has shown in the AHL that he can put up good points, but fails to produce at the NHL level. And he also has a really low face-off percentage for a center, which will likely keep him from seeing any meaningful minutes unless Hedl again is out of the lineup, bumping up Raw 2, and then they really need that 4C. He's one of a handful of young Canucks looking forward to cracking the last spot on the Canucks roster, but I just think it's unlikely we see too much of him just with how well some of these other young dudes are going. My bet is only 10 games played, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. I think there's far better options for our last roster spot than Niels Amon. All right, I have 2 others Canucks, I think, might crack this last roster spot. The first one being Linus Karlsson, a 25-year-old center player. Last year, playing 23 games with 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. And the year before, only playing 4 games with the big club with 0 points. Karlsson's the next option for that last roster spot. He also sports a really low face-off percentage and has struggled to get much team with the big club. That being said, he absolutely carried the Canucks AHL team, setting a franchise AHL goals scored record as a Canuck and finishing the AHL season with 23 goals, 16 assists in 32 games, and went on to have a dominant run in the Calder Cup. 14 goals, 12 assists in 24 games played, and if not for Shilaus, probably would have gotten the playoff MVP. I think similar to Amon, I think it's going to be hard for him to crack that last spot as a center, but with the low faceoff percentage, but he might see some play on the wing. I think 15 games played, 5 points, 10 assists, 15 points maybe, but I think the last option here I'm going to talk about is going to get more ice time than the other 2, and that being Jonathan Lekaramäki. 21-year-old right winger. Jonathan played 24 games with the big club, 3 games, 3 assists, 6 points, just like Linus Karlsson. Lekaramäki has very little North American hockey experience, his last season being the first full season on North American ice. He's shown he has a really strong offensive skill set and a rocket of a shot. He's got a really good hockey IQ, is good at getting to the right spot on the ice, and showed a lot of good chemistry, particularly unfortunate with JT Miller before he left. His AHL play was solid, not quite as good as Karlsson's, but he did show up in big games, most notably a 2-goal effort in the finals to help the Abbotsford Canucks take a 3-1 lead in the series. His level-headedness in big games will be much needed in a depth scoring role, I think, for the Canucks, especially should they make a serious playoff push. My bet for Lekaramäki is going to be 50 games played, 10 goals, 15 assists, 25 points. I think the younger age really helps him here. The strong play away from the puck, coupled with his scoring touch, Lekaramäki will be the choice the Canucks stick to out of our 3 top depth choices. I think the more experience he gets on North American ice, the more he's going to flourish, and I think he just ends up being a better option over our 2 25-year-old center depth options. All right, moving forward, we're going to talk about defensemen, and for sure, the man, the myth, the legend. Up first, we have Mr. Quinn Hughes. 25 years old, left-hand defenseman. I think this man needs no introduction, but Quinn Hughes, our current captain, best defender the Canucks possibly have ever had, and potentially the best player the Canucks have ever had by the end of his career. Quinn Hughes is no doubt the hard carry of the Canucks last year, playing 68 games for 16 goals, 60 assists, and 76 points. The year before, 82 games, 17 goals, 75 assists, 92 points. Yeah, not only is Quinn Hughes very solid defensively, his true strength really lies in his offense. The entire Canucks offense runs through Quinn. He has proven year over year that he is one of the best skaters in the league and has amazing puck handling skills. But really in the last 2 years working on his shot and starting to put up those big points, challenging Makar and ultimately winning a Norris Trophy for the first time in Canucks franchise history, not last season, but the season before. Hughes has also set the franchise record for most assists by a Canucks defenseman and is currently tied with Alex Edler for the most points ever scored by a Canucks defender in franchise history. The Canucks captain puts his team on his back night in and night out, and now with a really strong decor around him, which we will get to, hopefully Thatcher Demko behind him, and I think Pettersson primed for a revenge season. I think it's only natural we expect another career year out of our Quinn Hughes. My bet for him will be 20 goals, 85 assists, I think 105 points. I think we see a Norris Trophy for Quinn Hughes, and I think we could see potential for a Hart Trophy. I think it's going to depend kind of on the rest of the league and how that goes. But Quinn really just like gearing up into his prime, and I think if you have a proper team around him, he is for sure one of the best players in the league. Up next, we have Quinn's partner, Filip Hronek, 27-year-old right defenseman last year with 61 games played, 5 goals, 28 assists, 33 points. The year before, with 81 games played, 5 goals, 43 assists for 48 points. He's a really solid defender with high offensive upside. Hronek is definitely a lot better in his own end, I think, than Quinn Hughes can be at times, which makes him a perfect pairing for our captain. But he is no stranger to trying to wire an insane slap shot from the blue line. Last year, Hronek was no exception to the team-wide slumps the Canucks faced, missing a good chunk of time with his own injury. Despite the injury, Hronek would still put up decent points and was scoring at a similar rate to what Quinn Hughes does when he was out. Hronek can run his own line, dropping down the depth chart to play with Marcus Pettersson if need be. But the chemistry with Hughes gives the team a nearly unmatched offense from the blue line when they're paired together. My bet with a full season and Quinn Hughes playing nuts next to him, I expect a solid year out of him. 8 goals, 52 assists for 60 points, which would be a career high year for Hronek, which I don't think is too much to ask for, especially if the rest of my predictions come true. On to our second pairing, we have fairly new addition in Marcus Pettersson, 29 years old, left defenseman. We got him from Pittsburgh halfway through the season last year. So he had 31 games played in Pittsburgh, 1 goal, 10 assists, 11 points. Then joined the Canucks for 47 games played, 3 goals, 15 assists, 18 points. Yeah, Pettersson is a really solid shutdown defenseman with solid offensive upside. In his short time with the Canucks last season, Pettersson recorded 61 blocked shots and was on ice for only 4 goals in 74 minutes worth of shorthanded playtime. His chemistry with Hronek has been great, and just having that older leadership presence on and off the ice has been huge to one of the youngest teams in the league, especially one of the youngest ones that are actually trying to push towards any sort of playoff performance. Yeah, Marcus really brings some much needed stability to a blue line that was struggling 2 years ago to keep pucks away from the net. And Pettersson should make for a really good D partner with either Hronek or Myers and really round out the middle pairing for the Canucks. His penalty kill will be relied on quite heavily, with the Canucks keeping Hughes off the penalty kill to use him more offensively. My bet for Pettersson will be 5 goals, 35 assists, 40 points, just like a real solid year out of him. Up next, we have Tyler Myers, 35 years old, right defenseman, aka the Chaos Giraffe. Last year, we had him in 71 games played, 6 goals, 18 assists, 24 points. The year before, 77 games played, 5 goals, 24 assists for 29 points. Tyler Myers played the most games out of any defender for the Canucks last season on a blue line absolutely riddled with injuries. Just about everybody was missing a bunch of time due to injuries. Previous seasons saw a lot of fans, including myself, criticize him for being overpaid, but after signing a contract extension with the Canucks, his salary, I think, is much more in line with what you get. He's a really solid defender who plays really well on a middle pairing, not kind of running his own pairing, but if he's paired with somebody fairly sound of mind defensively, he does some good work. You won't really get much offensively from him, but you will get a good skater who's solid in his own zone. He leads the Canucks in block shots and defensive zone takeaways while putting up the second most shots on net out of Canucks defensemen, so he is still good for like just giving us that net front action. Myers is also just like a good leader and solid veteran presence. He's one of the oldest, if not the oldest player on the team, and really just like helps keep the young guys grounded. My bet, 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points. Another solid season for Tyler Myers on the middle pairing. Down to our last pairing. We have our third Pettersson, Elias Pettersson, or DPD, playing 28 games for 1 goal, 2 assists, and 3 points. He's not very flashy and has little to no offensive upside to his game, but where his points totals can leave something to be desired, his confidence on the ice, his solid defensive play, and his willingness to stand up for his teammates as a rookie defenseman have led most people to believe he will take one of the last spots on defense this season, and I'm inclined to believe them. While there are a few contenders for his spot on the roster, his young age combined with how calm he is on the ice, I think will lend well to him being a really good middle pairing defenseman in the future. My bet for him, 3 goals, 12 assists, 15 points. I think that'll come with more ice time, slight increase in his offensive production, but I think he's going to carve out a name for himself as a dependable, defensively minded, stay-at-home defenseman. Up next, and I think the last defense spot, we have Mr. Derek Forbort, a 30-year-old defenseman, 54 games played with the big club last year, 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points. And the year before, 35 games played, 0 goals, 4 points, all of them being assists. Forbort has been solid for the bottom pair of the Canucks defense. And while again limited in offensive capability, Forbort more than makes up for it by being a solid option on the penalty kill and fairly reliable in his own zone. I don't really expect him to be with the Canucks too much longer. He's on a 1-year deal, and I think there's a lot of really good, young, promising defensemen coming up through the Canucks system. I'm just not entirely sure that they'll get the call up this year, with some of the Canucks just needing a little bit more time to cook, I think, in the AHL. My bet for Derek Forbort will be 4 goals, 10 assists, 14 points, and I think he gets moved at the trade deadline. I think a rookie will end up taking his spot and freeing up some money, I think, for some much needed forward depth, particularly down the middle, I think will be the big thing for the Canucks. That rounds out the defensemen. And last but certainly not least, we get to our Canucks goaltenders. First up, Thatcher Demko, 29 years old. Goaltender last year only playing 23 games. Starting all 23 of them, he won 10 games, lost 8, had an .889 save percentage, and only 1 shutout, with 3 losses being overtime losses. The year before, though, playing 51 games, starting all 51 of those, winning 35 games, losing 14, only 2 of those being OT losses, with 5 shutouts and a staggering .918 save percentage. Thatcher the Snatcher Demko, the Canucks starting goaltender, is back this season, hopefully fully recovered from seemingly unending injuries he faced the last 2 seasons. Demko, I think, when healthy, is a bona fide top 10 goaltender, if not top 5 goaltender. With only his rookie season and the last injury-riddled season below a .900 save percentage, the only question with Demko comes is if he'll be able to stay healthy enough to take, I think, about 50 games this year. And anytime he's in the lineup and healthy, Demko gives the Canucks a solid chance to win every single night he's in net. My personal opinion on him, I don't think any NHL team would sign the 3-year, $8 million plus extension with Demko if they had any questions as to his health. And everything we've seen from Demko says he expects to be fully healthy coming into this season. So I'm expecting a bounce back year from Demko. I think even potentially a career year with a revitalized decor, the decor looking just about as good as it ever has in front of him. My bet is 50 games played, about a .915 save percentage, a 38 and 12 win-loss ratio for Demko. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of him. Rounding out the Canucks, we have backup goaltender Kevin Lankinen, 30 years old. Last year, pretty much taking the starting position while Demko was out injured and Shilovs just wasn't quite ready. 51 games played, with 49 of those being starts and 2 of them being backup relief games. 25 wins, 15 losses with a .902 save percentage. 10 of those losses being OT losses, and he had 4 shutouts. The year before, coming from Nashville, playing backup, only 24 games played, with 17 of those starts being starts and not relief. 11 wins, 6 losses, .908 save percentage with 1 OT loss, 1 shutout. Lank the Tank, as we call him, Kevin Lankinen, acquired last year to be full-time backup for Demko, and then almost immediately given the starting job considering Demko was out with injury. Lankinen shouldered this responsibility, I think, just as well as any career backup goaltender could have, sporting a decent save percentage and win rate, but he also became the first NHL goalie to win 10 road games to start a season. And after the stellar start with the increased play rate, paired with his age and the fact that he was just behind a defense core that was like riddled with injuries pretty much the entire year, Lankinen still put up admirable numbers, but I think it proved his best spot on the team as a backup goaltender. My bet this year is we'll probably see Lankinen take 32 out of the 82 games off Demko's shoulders, leaving 50 games to Demko. And as long as injuries permit them, I think we'll see an increase in his save percentage just from playing less. And as such, I think we'll see an increase in his win rate as well. My prediction, 9-10 save percentage and a 23-9 win rate. I think this will be mostly road games for Kevin Lankinen, and that's where we're going to see him thrive. But yeah, this will end my predictions for our Canucks players this season. Yeah, I'd like to thank anybody who takes the time to watch my videos. If you leave a like, comment, subscribe, all those beautiful things. I'll try to kind of interact with people as they leave comments. Next week, we'll be going into my overall predictions for the entire team for the year, talk about the upcoming preseason games. And yeah, we'll leave this one at that. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next week. Oh my God. How long did that end up being?